Well, hello and welcome. Welcome to Insight Meditation Community of Charlotte. I'm Thia Powers and I'm bringing our topic tonight. Recently, I was with a friend who is also a meditator, and I must have mentioned Dhamma or the Dharma. And she looked at me and said, "What is Dharma?" And I thought until that moment that I had a solid sense of Dharma. And then I realized that I wanted to do the word justice, to be respectful, to answer in a way that reflects the fact that it reflects some of my values in life. So it gave me pause because I couldn't think of a singular English word that summed up the word Dhamma. And yet here in the West, we use the word Dhamma or Dharma all the time. It's a part of our contemporary culture. There were babies being named Dharma. And I remember a sitcom. You guys might remember Dharma and Greg about, 7 or 8 years ago. And I even shop in stores that are named Dharma. So it's everywhere. But do we really know what it means? In a way, if somebody stopped you on the street and said, "What is Dharma?" What would you say? So I thought, since I found it worth investigating, that maybe as students of the Dharma, we could investigate it together tonight. So first of all, is it Dharma or Dhamma? I've heard it both ways. I noticed Philip Moffitt preferred Dhamma, and Dharma seems to roll off the tongue a little more easily. But there's not that much difference, really. Dharma is from the Sanskrit, and I think because so many people are yoga teachers and yoga is so popular that Dharma is used a lot. Dhamma with 2 M's is from the Pali language commonly spoken at the time of the Buddha. And we often hear followers of the Buddha's teachings using Dhamma instead of Dharma. So same word, I'll flip back and forth between the two. And now we know it means the same thing. So a quick look at our agenda for the night. Topic is Dhamma. We want to look at the root word, and we want to look at some meanings, plural, because I found a lot of meanings. And then we want to figure out, how do we practice with this information? Oh, so back to the story. My friend asked me, what is Dharma? And I instantly remembered coming out of a retreat 20 years ago. I'd been silent for 10 days. And there were about 60 people in this retreat. And it was time for question and answer, and we were starting to talk again. So I raised my hand and asked the very same question: what is Dhamma? And when I asked that question, I saw the 2 teachers look at each other like, you go, no, you go. And then one of them kind of looked at the ceiling, and finally one looked at me and said, "Dhamma is truth." And the other one looked at me and said, "Dhamma is everything." And I saw people nodding in agreement in the room, and they kind of moved on to a different topic. And I was left with the feeling of not quite getting it. So I had a 6-hour drive home, and those words kept pinging in my head. Dhamma is truth, Dhamma is everything. I thought, what does that even mean? So little did I know, that 20 years later, I would be the Dhamma teacher trying to explain what is Dhamma. So it stayed with me for 20 years. So the root word of Dhamma is a Sanskrit word, and it's spelled D-H-R-I. Not sure how to pronounce that, but this word is an ancient word, and I love the meaning. It means to hold, to support, to sustain, and to bear. And so those meanings, like I said, are from 2,500 years ago, and they bring to mind for me a structure or a foundation, holding, supporting, sustaining, bearing. And I think you'll hear possibly some of the structural and foundational aspects of this as we work through some of the most commonly used meanings for the word Dhamma. So I wasn't surprised to find that there are more than 10 meanings right off the bat for this word. And as I read through them, I found some that were very unfamiliar and very complicated. So I chose the ones, and you'll thank me for this, I hope, that seem to be most in use today and that would be most useful for us. So we need to remember that English speakers don't have a single word for Dhamma. Many of us were not lucky enough to grow up in homes where we were taught to meditate as children, or, heard the word Dharma growing up. So while we're using this word, it's not part of a long-standing tradition in the Western culture. In my search for a clearer understanding, I discovered some answers, but I also discovered a lot of mystery. And so I came across this poem by Rilke that captures some of that, and I'd like to open with that. Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves. Like locked rooms and like books that are now written in a very foreign tongue, do not now seek the answers which cannot be given to you, because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps then gradually, without noticing it, some distant day, you'll live into the answer. So hopefully we're going to live into some answers tonight. Let's look at 4 of the most commonly used meanings for Dhamma. The first one will probably sound familiar, and that is teachings or doctrines, because we have a Dhamma talk every week and we focus on the teachings of the Buddha. So that one I think is easy to remember. And when you see this word in a sentence, if it's capitalized, it means the teachings of the Buddha. Oftentimes it's not capitalized, so we'll get to that in a minute. The Buddha's first teaching was called turning the wheel of the Dhamma, setting the wheel of the Dhamma rolling in motion. And this also translates as turning the wheel of truth. So right away we see Dhamma and truth translated as the same thing, which I think is interesting. Dhamma with a capital D refers to the Buddha's teachings that can lead to knowledge of suffering and liberation from suffering. Each week we hear some truth or some sutta that points us to the knowledge of suffering and the liberation of suffering. And so we know that the Buddha's teachings are huge volumes of many, many works. So I won't go into the whole list of things that we can explore, but that's our first definition. And there is one teaching called the Triple Gems that puts the Dhamma right at the middle. And I love the Triple Gems because it's the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. And it always makes me think somebody woke up. A lot of people have woken up. A lot of people have dropped the burden of selfing and suffering. And the Buddha shows us that we can take refuge there. Taking refuge means that we can be safe, we can be protected, we can feel at ease. And again, that brings to mind some kind of a structure to me where you can take shelter. So the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. The Dhamma is the liberating teaching, teachings of suffering and the way to the end of suffering. And the Sangha is the monastic and lay communities. That's us. We provide guidance and support and compassion to each other. Refuge, we're refuge for each other and to the community at large. So I love that particular teaching with the Dhamma right at the middle, the triple gems. So our first meaning is teaching. This is what that Vipassana teacher 20 years ago simply called truth. And now it makes sense. The second meaning that's really often used, and this is the one where I feel a lot of mystery, is simply called the nature of things. And this is little d, Dhamma. It's also known as cosmic law and order. And the term I really like for this is as it is. Just as it is. And so Wikipedia has an interesting definition for this second Dhamma, little d. It says, Dhamma is the thing that regulates the course of change by not participating in change, and is that principle which remains constant. Dhamma is the thing that regulates the course of change by not participating in change, and is that principle which remains constant. So that's kind of mysterious to me, and I love that definition. So Dhamma in this second context really is everything. It is the nature of things, that flowers are blooming now, that the wind is blowing, that the sky is blue, that it looks like the sun is rising every day, but really the planet is spinning, that people are being born, people are getting married, people are falling ill and dying, that it's just observable phenomena unfolding, always unfolding. And then we wake up to it, we participate, we become aware of it. Some teachers, particularly Mark Nunberg, and recently I heard Philip Moffitt use this term too, they use the term lawful as a shorthand for cosmic law and order, which is this same definition, that as it is, the things unfolding. And they just use that word, the lawful way of things, the way things are. So that's our second definition, the nature of things, cosmic law and order, or as it is. Now, the third definition is a lesser used sense, and it refers to what are called the mental constituents, or theories of consciousness itself. And so you can see this is starting to get a little deep. And I found Bhikkhu Bodhi, our buddy Bhikkhu Bodhi, the brilliant Bhikkhu Bodhi, on YouTube teaching about this. And he's teaching what's called the Abhidhamma, A-B-H-I, Dhamma, which translates as about Dhamma. And so this book and these teachings are complicated, but they're pretty interesting if you just want to peek at them or even look at the book online. And they include detailed Buddhist theories of consciousness, levels of consciousness. I'll be interested to hear if any of you take a look at that. So our third meaning basically is the theory of consciousness. And I've just exhausted about all I can reliably report on number 3. So number 4, our last meaning, is a quality or a characteristic. And sometimes we hear people talking about the dhammas of the Buddha, and it's little d. And so it's not referring to his teachings. It's referring to various auspicious qualities that he was purported to have, that we all have. Hopefully we have auspicious qualities, but it can also be not so great qualities. The Buddha, though, was thought to be moderate in his food intake, an articulate speaker, perceptive, diplomatic, virtuous, and wise. So we all have our own dhammas. It's a personal dhamma about how we occur and manifest in the world. What are the qualities that we carry? And these qualities are likely how we'll be remembered one day, these dhamma qualities. So I'll stop at 4. And to sum this up, our dhamma means 1, the teachings of the Buddha; 2, natural laws as it is; 3, consciousness, see Bhikkhu Bodhi, Abhidhamma; and 4, qualities, not used as much, but I think you'll come across it if you read Dhamma books. So each meaning, of course, depends on the context being used. And the first 2, I think, are the ones that you'll run across the most often. They're the ones that I see the most often: the teachings of the Buddha and the cosmic laws of how things operate. In his book, One Dharma, Joseph Goldstein calls Dhamma knowledge deep common sense, and I really like that. He says the Dhamma points out the obvious truths for us and illuminates them, because often these truths become obscured. So I don't know about you, but my new normal involves constant incoming information on more than one device, a lot of it asking for time-sensitive replies. And sometimes I find it difficult to have a sense of ease in my day-to-day life with that. I can easily become distracted with things that seem urgent, and then I miss important or even essential parts of my life, interacting with people that I love, or watching the sunset, the seasons change. Just what Goldstein calls deep common sense of just staying connected to our lives, paying attention to our lives. So to me, he's talking about this second meaning, the nature of reality. So considering our first 2 definitions, the teachings of the Buddha and the as it is, the isness of our lives, how do we then practice with this? What does that look like for you guys? I know for me, it feels wide open. It feels like begin anywhere. Pick a sutta, pick up a Dharma book. Willingness is the key to just read a few sentences, just drop a few Dharma seeds into your brain or your heart, and then go do anything. Don't try to figure it out or think about it. Just let that be and see what happens. And then if we want to work with the isness of life, that's even more wide open. Just be creative, be available to looking at things, to studying things, to listening to things, to watching cause and effect, to be present for your own life. Pema Chodron says, everything that occurs is not only usable and workable, but actually is the path. We can use everything that happens to us as the means for waking up. We can use everything that occurs, whether it's our conflicting emotions, our thoughts, or our seemingly outer situation, to show us where we're distracted and how we can pay attention and how we can even wake up completely right now, at least for a moment. The Dhamma that was taught by the Buddha can be simple and easy to practice. We can begin to work with any of the Eightfold Path in bite-sized pieces. Right speech is a great place to practice. Non-harming is a great place to practice. Just considering right view. Anywhere, start anywhere. As we meditate and practice, we practice regularly, we become more tuned in to seeing our thoughts and the patterns of our thoughts and being able to interrupt them and redirect them to wholesome thoughts, and to see what's behind things like fear and anger, to drop in a little deeper, to see that we're always craving, or I should speak for myself, always craving something, and to recognize that and to just go, wow, it's true. I'm doing it again. We're subject to constant change, and much is really beyond our control. So really the only thing we can control is in here, and everything starts right there. So this is how we work with it. What's more, once we begin working with it and find some sense of ease and calm and happiness, relief from all the craving and clinging, this ripples out from us in waves. People will notice that you're calmer, that you're nicer, that you're softer. It's interesting. You'll hear that. I bet you will. Terry Tempest Williams says, to slow down is to be taken into the soul of things. So another suggestion for working with any kind of Dharma is just begin slowing down. We don't have to put our jobs in jeopardy to slow down. As a matter of fact, this kind of slowing down has been shown to raise your productivity, increase your ability to focus. At any time, you can take a few breaths, close your eyes, recenter, and watch as awareness comes right up, right there to meet you. Awareness is always already there. Awareness is always already there. So that's the beauty of this. Our practice is to just be available to it, be curious and be willing. And so we formally sit on the cushion like we sat together tonight. We make ourselves available. And then we have these talks, which hopefully make us more willing to participate when we're off the cushion, to just pay attention to the little d and the big D, to slow down. Adyashanti, another favorite teacher, tells us silence is its own transmission. Just to trust the unfolding, not direct the outcome, or the income. It's an adventure. It's an adventure in consciousness. We heard Deb speak last week about having faith, and Philip Moffitt just the week before saying, we don't need a guarantee. We just need to show up, see what happens, check it out. So be fair with your Dhamma practice. Regular forays into awareness are much more productive than a weekly hour-long sit. And you could do both. But I know that doing this daily produces better results than doing it from time to time. So just a little bit of diligence will bring results. So as we wrap this up, you might be asking yourself, does it really matter if I know what Dhamma is? And of course, you can only answer that yourself, but you are listening to a Dhamma talk, so I'm assuming that it does matter in some way. Socrates, that great thinker who was sentenced to death because of his radical ideas, when he was questioned about those ideas and renouncing them, he replied, an unexamined life is not worth living. And so to me, the Dhamma invites us to examine our life, and the Dhamma helps us be present for our life. Dhamma, in all senses of the word, invites us to live into questions. It doesn't matter if we have the answers now. The answers will come, to test any part of the teachings and observe things as they are, try them on for ourselves. This is what brings the Dhamma alive. Then we can really speak about it. Truth has nothing to fear from relentless investigation. So circling back, I want to give those Vipassana teachers from 20 years ago a bow, because I'm sure I looked at them with a quizzical look. And now I realize they were telling the truth, and that it was my lack of experience that needed to ripen. So may we all ripen into the Dhamma in every sense of the word. And let's close tonight with a William Stafford poem called The Way It Is. I invite you to close your eyes as you listen to this. There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder about what you are pursuing. You have to explain about the thread, but it's hard for others to see. While you hold it, you can't get lost. Tragedies happen, people get hurt or die, and you suffer and get old. Nothing you do can stop time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread. Thanks for your ears tonight. And this is now over to you, my friends. What is Dhamma for you? Do you have questions? Do you have comments? I invite you to chat them in. And I believe that some kind soul posted the announcements in the chat box. Isn't that right? So I'm going to read them anyway, but I'm going to read them really fast now. And hopefully you guys may or may not have questions. Either way is the Dhamma. So all this is on our website. And if you sign up for our newsletter, you'll get this delivered to you once a month. So you sign up for the newsletter on the website, www.imccharlotte.org. We're a nonprofit and we operate on your dana, on your generosity. You can also donate on the website, and we appreciate that. So big news is the Tuesday sits are starting again on May the 4th at noon. Please join us. Those were popular before COVID. It's been a year, and they're starting up May the 4th. That's on the website. Those will be on Zoom for probably a month or two. The book discussion group, May the 6th. Clean Up Charlotte, May the 8th at Freedom Park. David Chernikoff, May 19th and 22nd. That registration is open if you want to do a day long with Chernikoff, well-known speaker. Mary Aubrey, June 16th. And the registration for our own residential summer retreat, which will be in person, is now open. And just to let you know, we have to limit the number of folks. We're still going to distance. So if you're interested in that, I would encourage you, that opens May the 1st. So we're about a week away from that registration. That retreat is August 19th. First Wednesdays are practice discussion online, 6:45. And last Wednesdays are instruction sessions, again, online. So trying to do better with the announcements. Thank you for these kind comments. Thank you, guys. They're popcorning in. Well, do we all know what Dhamma is? I hope so. I hope so. If we don't have additional questions, thank you for all the kind words. Let's end. Wait, we do have some comments. Okay. How do you spell the teaching again? Maria, I'm not sure if you mean Abhidhamma, Abhidhamma. Let's circle back offline if that's not what you were talking about. And Denise is saying there's a non-IMCC announcement. There's a barbecue in memory of Bob Bushhorn, a beloved Sangha member, May 23rd, Sunday at the Rama Road Swim Club. And that will be on the Facebook page and also on Instagram from 4 to 6 p.m. So we would love to see you there. I know a lot of us are going to be at that in-person event. It will also be on GroupMe. Okay, let's step away from announcements and questions and move into a metta mode for a few minutes. This is going to be a short metta tonight, but I would like for you to close your eyes and bring to mind someone in particular that you would like to share loving kindness with. And you can say their name out loud. We're muted here, and you can speak their name, and you can speak this metta out loud if that feels nice to you to say these words. May I live peacefully with kindness and with ease. Bring your person to mind and direct this to them. May you live peacefully with kindness and with ease. Widening your circle now. Send it out to friends and family and neighbors. May you all live peacefully with kindness and with ease. And make the effort to include the beings that you don't particularly feel soft feelings for. Wish them well. Practice well wishing by directing. May you also live peacefully with kindness and with ease. May all beings everywhere realize liberation. May our practice be for the benefit of all beings.